The year is 1876. America celebrates its 100th birthday as Rutherford B. Hayes secures the presidency, becoming the 19th president of the United States. George Custer is killed this year at the Battle of Bighorn, and the country itself is still to a great degree untamed and rife with famous outlaws. Let's talk today about the James Younger Gang. Let's talk about the start of the end. This is the story of the Northfield bank raid in Minnesota. It's this time, early fall, that the James Younger Gang decides to ride for Minnesota for what will be their last bank robbery. Those members remaining and notable were brothers Jesse and Frank James, Bob, Cole, and Jim Younger, Clell Miller, Charlie Pitts, and Bill Stiles. Perhaps this time of year a chill had started to roll in, and they must have realized that they were now far away from their home in Missouri. The idea of the raid and its plan came from Jesse James and Bob Younger, but maybe his brother Cole felt the omens of what was to come, because we know he tried to talk his brother out of the plan. But Bob, ever an immovable force, refused to back down. Northfield, Minnesota, August. It was by this time the town proudly boasted the completion of its railroad through the center of town, along with not one but two prestigious colleges that still stand today, those being St. Olaf and Carleton. This was the fourth year of a biblical-like swarm of locusts that had covered the sun, leaving farmers destitute and hungry. But Northfield suffered little of this, now boasting one of the finest and most secure banks in the state, even with a time lock accompanying it, new technology that could lock and unlock the bank at certain hours of the day. On the morning of September 7th, the gang meets alongside the Cannon River. They came into town together and dined at a local restaurant on fried eggs, washing it down with enough whiskey that it would be smelled on the breath first and foremost of the people they were about to rob. They roamed the streets and waited for 2 p.m. Frank James, Bob Younger, and Charlie Pitts tie their horses to the hitching posts outside of the bank, carefully scouting the area before darting in. Behind them, further down the street, gang members scout the rest of the area, before two armed men take position on horseback outside the front of the bank. "They're going in," says Miller to Cole. "If they do, the alarm will be given as sure as there's a hell," responds Cole. Alonzo Bunker, the youngest of the tellers, looks up from his ledger into the barrels of 3 revolvers. "Throw your hands up and stay quiet," shouts Frank James. They climb the counter and demand that the tellers get to the ground. Frank Wilcox and Alonzo Bunker comply, and Joseph Haywood, already sitting, stays where he is. Frank demands they tell him where the cashier was. Haywood attempts to explain the cashier wasn't there. James, in response, leveled his gun and demanded he open the safe. Haywood did not move. Outside, the men on horseback listen in. These men are Cole Younger and Clell Miller. They become concerned about all the yelling, scanning the area as civilians start to realize what's going on. Cole dismounts, as does Miller, and pretends to tighten his saddle. J.S. Allen, resident of the town, looks into the window long enough to realize what's going on. Before meeting Miller's guns, it's rammed into Allen's face. Allen manages to slip away and runs down the street at breakneck speed. A man named Wheeler shouts next, the first alarm to the town. "Get your guns, boys, they're robbing the bank." A shot flies over the merchant's head as he dives into his father's store. Cole jumps into his saddle and begins firing off his gun at anyone who moves outside. At the sound of gunfire, Jesse and Jim Younger went flying down the street as practice, into the air, screaming like banshees in an attempt to scare away townsfolk that might make an escape route difficult. In other places, townsmen are not eager to lose their deposits. They're grabbing guns that are handed to them. Quickly, a posse of townsmen are forming into a small army around the James Younger Gang. As Clell Miller is scrambling onto his horse, a man aims his shotgun at him and fires, blasting him away. But it's only birdshot, and it only succeeds in knocking him off his horse. Cole whips around to see the scene, before climbing back onto his horse as well. Soon, gunfire from every window and street is raining down upon the riders, outside the bank and their horse. And the 5 men outside the bank are now in an all-out war with near the entire town. Revolvers, antique rifles, shotguns, and even a sheriff with allegedly less of guns at home and was now throwing stones at the thieves. Everyone in the town is fighting. Inside, Haywood is still refusing to open the bank vault, claiming he is unable to do so with the time lock. At this point, they decide to make a break for it with what they can, grabbing only stationery and odd bills on the register. Charlie Pitts pulls a knife and demands he opens the safe. Again, he refuses and tries to escape his grasp before Frank slams the butt of his gun into his skull and fires a shot over the bank teller's head. In the gun smoke, Bunker bolts for the back door of the bank. Charlie fires and misses. Once, then twice. Charlie takes careful aim and fires again, tearing through Bunker's right shoulder but not killing him or disabling him. Bunker runs away and manages to make an escape. Outside again across the street, an antique rifle fires out a bellow of protest and hits Miller in the shoulder, sending him flying off his horse for the second time. Miller gets up to his knees before collapsing as his heart gives out. He's the first casualty. Cole Younger runs to his friend and notices he is dead, before seeing the wound in his own lower hip and screaming inside, "What the hell is taking so long? Get out here!" Again comes a shot. Bill Chadwell is shot off his horse and falls dead into the street, having been struck just above the heart. Cole is begging now, "Come out here, we're being shot to bits." The drunk Swede stumbles towards the horseman at this time, completely wasted out of his mind. Cole Younger wheels his horse around and fires right into the head of the drunk, seemingly killing him. Inside, the bank robbers finally decide it's time to go. Frank, beyond furious for Haywood's refusal to open the safes, levels his pistol and shoots Joseph Haywood in the head, killing him instantly. Outside, the assault is coming from everywhere. Jim takes a slug to the shoulder but stays on his horse. Bob jumps as he's shot in the gun hand. By now, Frank, Charlie, and Bob are on their horses, and the 6 surviving outlaws bolt from town with gunfire at their back. In the end, there are 4 casualties in the Northfield robbery. 2 robbers lay dead in the street, next to a dead horse, these being Bill Chadwell and Clell Miller. Joining the casualty count is the banker, Joseph Lee Haywood, and near a week later, the drunk Swede, Nicholas, who miraculously survived the initial shot to the head, will die of his wounds. This is the start of the end of the Jesse Younger gang.